this was shocking to me, Stu, but apparently Joe Biden needed a wheelchair and somebody to push him around in it.
That's the report today. From the new book.
New book.
It's the Jake Tapper, Alex Thompson book.
Yeah. Who Jake was completely surprised by all of this.
Was he?
He was completely surprised. Yeah, he was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! I should write a book real quick." You know, so he was completely caught off guard. Nobody in the media or writing these books had any idea that Joe Biden wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, wasn't playing basketball every afternoon. They had no idea. You know, the last time they saw him, he was sharper than the sharpest guy they've ever seen.
I know. The thing that was devastating to me was I was convinced he was just running circles around his 25-year-old staffers.
Yeah.
And then to learn that actually he wasn't running around anything because they needed to put him on a chair with wheels was a disappointing awakening.
You know, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with somebody in a wheelchair. I own FDR's wheelchair, and I think I bought it for the museum because I think it should be the symbol of us winning World War II. Now, he hit it. I mean, the reason why the Resolute desk has that little door in the front, you know, that John was, you know, opening up, and that picture with John F. Kennedy and his son opening up the door underneath the desk, that was never there. That was not part of the Resolute desk. FDR had that installed because that desk was in the map room where he used to do his fireside chats, and he didn't want anybody taking pictures of him in the wheelchair or his legs, and so you could see it until they put the door there, and they finished the door, you know, just in time for him to die. So he never used it. But he was embarrassed by the wheelchair. I think that was his greatest strength. The guy couldn't walk, and yet he did. The guy, I mean, he worked so hard with his son every day. Imagine the strength that it took in his upper body and his son's upper body. He would hold on to his son's arm. His son would just put his arm out straight, and they rehearsed every day. They worked out so they could do this. So the son could look like he wasn't putting any effort into it. He was just helping his dad. You know, here, grab onto my arm, Dad. And all of the son's strength of that one forearm and FDR grabbing onto his arm, that's what held him upright. And then his son had to look like it was no big deal as FDR took all of his upper body strength to swing his legs out so he could walk because he had no power below the waist. That is incredible, as they were gassing people that were undesirable or had no quality of life because they had a wooden leg or they had crutches, let alone a wheelchair. The guy who was in the wheelchair beat Hitler. That's fantastic. So I think it's a sign of strength at times. And if you need to be in a wheelchair, you need to be in a wheelchair. And I think it would be embarrassing, you know, as you get older, you'd be like, I don't need this chair. You know, you become that grumpy old man. But the problem here is that no one in the White House said anything about it. They literally made special shoes so he could stand. Okay. All right. And then they were talking about after the election, he's got to go into a wheelchair because he can't walk anymore.
Again, a lie. Again, them lying to get themselves through this election.
Correct.
That's the theme here and why it's really important. It's not important that a guy has to go in a wheelchair in his 80s.
Who cares?
Hey, like every, you know.
Right. I hope I'm not, but I might be in a wheelchair when I'm 80. I might be 80? In a coffin.
Good God, if you see 80, I'll be stunned. You won't even be able to see 80 from like a peak near where you are in the distance.
I don't think we need to revel in this. You seem to be like counting the salary right now, and then I take over his show.
What's fascinating about this is not that he's going into a wheelchair. Again, like that's a normal human development. And like the fact that we live long enough to get to a point where we need a wheelchair for lifelong wear and tear. Hey, great. It's that they lied to us over and over and over again. In fact, the book talks about one of the lies, and it's hard to see how they could have been any more blatant